So the hunting and gathering gets into the whole conversation, one of not having well thought out storage, both from a capacity but also where it is, where it is organized. Why does that happen? It's an afterthought. We're trying to get the clinical flow worked out, and yet that is so important because so many of your caregivers are having to access that. They're having to get their materials, stocking, all that stuff.
Nurses who have bigger jobs to do than storage will actually spend time hunting for things that they need instead of it being organized
and this is when those workarounds come in because
Absolutely.
Their job is patient care.
Right.
And that's their number one focus. So they will do whatever they need to do in order to provide good patient care.
One thing that also a lot of times gets overlooked is including materials management, supply chain in those early conversations. Because a lot of times they get called later on, and it isn't just a matter of how big is their storage room, but it is how are materials getting over there. Looking at the loading dock, looking at their main dock, how many times are deliveries being made? Can you get a box cart back there? Where do you break down the boxes? All those things play into the operational efficiency of that project. How can we take your current facilities, your current footprint, and just make it more efficient without bricks and mortar solutions? And that's where architects bring, I think, the most value, when they're able to go in there and identify those things that you could do today with very little cost that are going to make things better.
So given all that we've talked about, what are some of the key takeaways?
I would say that, one, you've got to be cognizant that space is not always the answer. It's not always the problem. That you've got to be looking, or the solution, you've got to be looking at operations and maybe just a reconfiguration and assessing your flows to maybe find some immediate solutions to some of the problems that you're working on. Always be conscious of those subconscious workarounds that your staff are doing. Secondly, you've got to think beyond your department. Understand, like especially in healthcare, that there are many different constituents that have a play in the operations of that space. So looking beyond even just clinically, the clinical departments, but materials management, supply chain, environmental services, environmental engineering, all these different departments, and how the final product is going to impact them. And I think lastly, we've really got to be cognizant that we're working for a system, and this system looks at a project differently than we do. We look at space and color and if it functions. They're looking at a return on investment. They're looking at staffing. They're looking at equipment costs. They're looking at depreciations, all these things. And so we've got to be mindful that we are architects, but we're also really business consultants too. And having that mindset will allow you to bring value to any project.